And hello, everybody. Welcome to another Monday night edition of the Complete Commander Deck Brewing Twitch stream. So, anyway, today I wanted to brew up a deck around Kogla the Titan Ape. I've had the opportunity to play Kogla on Arena quite a bit. I've had him in quite a few decks, and he does some good stuff. I did try to build um, a brawl deck with Kogla, but he doesn't quite have the same oomph as some other choices for mono green. So I'm not quite sure that he's up to snuff in the general brawl populace of Arena, but I think in the broader field of Commander, I think he could make a fine pick. So anyway, I did notice over at EDH Rec, which is where I am currently, there's only like 16 decks loaded in the database that they collect. So that seems pitifully small. So anyway, Kogla is here to smash, and so let's get cracking. So anyway, I've started the list off as I usually do with some staples, mostly mana fixing. Also have a couple of things, obviously Soul Ring, Shadow Spear kind of goes in any deck I think that has creatures. Soul Guide Lantern is just a good utility card for some graveyard control, as well as Scavenging Ooze. Skull Clamp, it's a good card draw for creature-based decks. And also for the mana ramp, since we're playing green, I've got a lot of the usual suspects here: Rampant Growth, Nature's Lore, Secure Tribe Elder. Also Cultivate and Kadama's Reach, Solemn Simulacrum, and for a little bit of spice, I thought the new Migration Path. Let me go ahead and pull that up real quick in case you're not familiar with it. It's basically an improved explosive vegetation. So you get to search your land for search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then if you really don't need the extra mana, you can cycle it away. So that's pretty sweet. It's possible that we might want actual explosive vegetation and maybe another kind of ramp from 4 to 6. But for now, I just started out with just one migration path. And also Goreclaw, Terror of Calcisma, seems like a good choice too. It gives us a discount of 2 mana on Kogla's 6 casting cost. So, and then of course giving it +1/+1 in trample when Goreclaw attacks and alongside Kogla is definitely nice, since Kogla doesn't actually have trample inherent himself. Having some additional ways to give him trample, I think, is a good choice. So the first thing I wanted to do with Kogla, well, anyway, let's read his abilities first real quick. So he's a legendary ape for 6 mana, 3 green and 3. He's a 7/6. And when he enters the battlefield, he'll fight up to 1 target creature that you don't control. So that's basically some nice built-in creature control. He's going to fight and kill a lot of things and survive so long as the creature doesn't have more than 5 power. Also, when Kogla attacks, you get to destroy an artifact or enchantment that the defending player controls, which is a pretty sweet ability. And but the first ability that I kind of want to dig a little deeper into is the last one, which is an activated ability for 1 in green. Return target human you control to its owner's hand, and Kogla gains indestructible until the end of the turn. So that seems pretty sweet. Of course, it's going to be a little tough to activate that right off the bat since Kogla costs 6, but if we get to untap with Kogla out there and we have a couple of humans, he's going to be pretty tough to deal with, so that's nice. Another thing to keep in mind is you could fight a creature that has a higher power when he comes into play. If you also have a human already in play and you have that extra 2 mana available, you could play Kogla, put his enter the battlefield trigger on the stack, and then respond by bouncing the human to make him indestructible. So that's another way where you can kind of maybe fight with a creature that's a little bit larger power and survive. So anyway, I thought to kick off the stream I would look at the humans available to us in a mono green deck. So I went to Scryfall, which is my favorite card database, and I put in humans as a creature type, and I also wanted to first look at humans that have a enters the battlefield ability, since that'll give us another bonus to returning the human if we can replay it and get some more use out of it. So anyway, so looking at this list, the first one that kind of jumped out to me is Exolu's Diviner. When it enters the battlefield, it explores. It's only an 0/3, but if you get to hit a non-land from it, it'll become a 1/4. So it'll be a pretty solid blocker in the early game. Explore is a mechanic that's really good, I think, in green decks. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Exolu's Diviner. Obsessive Skinner looks kind of interesting. When he enters the battlefield, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. So you could either put that on him at first to sort of get a 2-drop 2/2 on the battlefield if that's a big deal. But the Delirium is kind of nice for later in the game, since basically at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep you get to keep adding counters. So I think that's a possible inclusion. So I'm going to put that in here for now. Another thing that's kind of nice about this is I think I'm going to probably include an artifact called Cauldron of Souls, which gives taps to give any number of creatures persist until the end of the turn. So they'll come back with -1/-1 counters. And Obsessive Skinner, when he comes back, could put that +1/+1 counter on something else, basically kind of neutralizing the -1/-1. Or if you do have a Delirium, you could bring it back, put the +1/+1 counter on him, so then he can start triggering the Delirium to kind of knock off the -1/-1 counters of some of your other creatures. So kind of like the looks of that one. Timberland Guide is another one that's kind of similar, but a little bit less good. So if we want to kind of lean into that, we could. Borderland Ranger seems like a solid include. Kind of help keep the land drops going. Champion of Lambholt is not a human that we're probably going to want to be bouncing, so I'm probably going to skip that. Eternal Witness obviously seems to be the slam dunk inclusion here. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand, so it lets you, keep getting stuff back. So that kind of virtual card drawing is pretty sweet. Foul Emissary is kind of interesting. So when it enters the battlefield, you get to look at the top 4 cards of your library and reveal a creature card from among them. Put them in your hand. And then you put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in any order rather. There's another part here that says something about sacrificing it while casting a spell with Emerge, which I don't think we're going to be really doing. But I'm curious as to whether that first one might be worth it or not. So anyway, if I had any chatters currently chatting, I would ask them for some feedback. But for now, I'm just going to kind of put that in the back of my mind. 3 mana is usually pretty tight in a commander deck, so I'm assuming he's probably not going to make the cut. Hornbash Mentor seems pretty good. So when he enters the battlefield, you can put a trample counter on target non-human creature you control. So like putting a trample counter on Kogla seems pretty nice, and then he can pump him up over time. So I think that's probably worth it to put Hornbash Mentor in there. Also, we might find that we have some Death Touch creatures in the deck, so giving them trample is a nice little combo. Maw-Fist Revolutionary is kind of interesting. When it enters the battlefield or dies, for each counter on the target permanent or player, you can add another counter. I'm not sure if that's really going to be a super slam dunk in this deck, but again, I'll probably tuck that away as a potential something to check later. One Volley Beast Tracker. So when this enters the battlefield, you get to search your library for a creature card with Death Touch, Hexproof, Reach, or Trample and reveal it. Shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. I kind of think that's probably going to be pretty good, giving us a little bit of tutoring for some abilities. So I'm going to kind of bookmark that for a later search, and we're going to look for creatures that have Death Touch, Hexproof, Reach, or Trample, and see which ones we might want to put in our deck. I mean, worst case scenario, we'll go get a Questing Beast, right? Cetizen Petitioner. When it enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to your devotion to green. So the Petitioner has 2 pips already, and Kogla has 3, so that could add up to some decent life. It is 3 mana, so I kind of feel like it's not going to be worth the 3 mana slot. So I'm going to keep moving on. Tireless Tracker is a human that we don't necessarily want to be bouncing back and forth, but it's a really good human. It's a really good card, period, so I think we're going to play it anyway. And I mean, who knows, if there's a board wipe, you could bounce your Tireless Tracker to your hand. Kogla stands indestructible, and then you can play your tracker again, and then play a land and get a clue. Alright, Awam Mori of the Open Fist. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent may put a legendary creature from their hand onto the battlefield. I don't think that's something that we're going to want to be doing too much of, but that's kind of amusing to think about. If we're going for a group hug theme, I guess we could do that in there, but that's not what I'm thinking of, since I'm more interested in smashing face with my Titan Ape. So Cetizen Starbreaker. Yeesh, 4 mana for 2/1. I mean, I like the Destroy Aura when it comes into the battlefield, but that's certainly not worth it. Slippery Bog Bonder has flash, has hex proof, which is something we can find with the beast tracker. And when it enters the battlefield, you put a hexproof counter on target creature, then move any number of counters from among creatures you control to that creature. That seems phenomenal in this deck. I mean, given Kogla hexproof at instant speed, like in response to like a Swords to Plowshares or something, and then basically having moving some other counters to it if you've got some +1/+1 counters sitting around, and then having a human on the board that's hexproof that you can always bounce back to your hand to make Kogla indestructible. So I think that's a slam dunk for sure. Alright, so we got Vital Splicer, which creates a 3/1 colorless golem artifact token when it comes into play, and you can spend 1 mana to regenerate. I think that's a little too little for what it's really given you. Sage of Ancient Lore is a human werewolf, and it has power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand, and when it enters the battlefield you get to draw a card. So let's see what its backside looks like. Okay. Probably, I think there's better options at 5 mana. Alright, so, okay, well, I think we've got our humans covered that had enters the battlefield. I'm going to remove the enters the battlefield search. And let's just look for humans. See if there's some other quality humans that we want to include that we could just happen to be able to bounce back to our hand if we need to. So if you're new to my stream, I like to search and work up lists by converted mana cost. For me, this lets me kind of keep an eye out. As you can see on my list here, I've got them kind of grouped by converted mana cost. So this kind of gives me a way when I brew up my decks to keep an eye on the mana curve as I'm brewing. So if I start getting to the point where I've got, like typically in the 3 mana spot, if I get to where I've just got way too many 3 mana stuff, then I look at the cards that I run across, I kind of get a little bit more critical eye on. So, alright, let's see what we got here under the humans. So Flaxen Intruder is kind of an interesting thought. You could play that pretty early in the game and be able to destroy some kind of annoying enchantment like Rhystic Study or a Smothering Tithe. But then like later on, if you just haven't really destroyed anything, you could use this to activate Kogla's ability, bounce it back to your hand, and if you have all that mana, you can just go ahead and play the adventure and then replay Flaxen Intruder later. I think that's probably a pretty good inclusion. Jazzy Doggo, welcome to the stream. I was beginning to think that everyone was going to leave me all by my lonesome today. So I'm glad that you like the way that I kind of organized my brewing. So right now we're looking for some humans. I've already searched for humans that had enters the battlefield triggers, so I kind of put those in there already, and now I'm just looking for some good other humans to add to the list, since Kogla likes to pick up humans and make himself indestructible. Okay. All right. Watching while you do the dishes. Multitasking. I like it. It's very productive of you, sir. Or 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 Ms. if as the case may be. I have no idea. Um, let's see. Thank you, Jazzy Doggo. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, like sometimes I try to write about how I brew up decks, but it's a little bit harder to convey that. So I just that's kind of what I decided to do with this stream is to have it be a more let people see sort of the organic process that I go through. I've been obviously brewing up commander decks since almost the beginning of commander being sort of brought to the general magic populace. So anyway, hopefully help some other people brew up decks too. That's kind of the goal. Alright, so we're looking for some more humans. Well, Uvenwald Tracker is a human, and he likes to arrange fights, so he seems like a slam dunk. Uvenwald Tracker. Alright, Jazzy Doggo, been brewing and playing since EDH became a thing. Alright, old timer, fellow old timer. Alright. Den Protector might be a good one. We could play it for its morph, flip it up, get a card back, and then bounce it back to our hand with Jogla. Yeah, I like that. Den Protector. I've also been a pretty big fan of Destiny Spinner on Magic Arena, and I'm looking forward to playing this in Commander decks too. Being able to kind of shut down counter spells on my creatures is worth it, and it's a human, so kind of like it. So started with Nath of the Gilt Leaf. It was so bad, but they all were back then. Yeah, there was a lot of bad. Well, you know what? The choices weren't bad per se. It's just that obviously the legends have been kind of the power scale of them has kind of gone off the chain these days. All right, Duskwatch Recruiter. So the flip side can discount your creature spells, is nice. And if you have the front side, you can search for some other creatures. I think that could be worth it, so let's give it a try. Duskwatch Recruiter. Jazzy Doggo points out that it wasn't the deck building, it was more of the cards that they were playing. So, yeah, as you pointed out, Thoughtseize, not exactly a great commander card. Amazing in tournament formats, but not so good in the 100 card format. Alright, humans. I got Magus of the Library in my Grathoma deck, and it does pretty good work. I do draw a lot of cards in that deck, but we could probably try to stack. I mean, I'm assuming that we're probably going to want to stack a bunch of card drawing in our deck too. So, in worst case, this taps for a mana. So let's maybe give that a try too. Magus of the Library. Nightshade Peddler. I could pair up with Kogla to give it Death Touch. Interesting. Yeah, I think maybe not. Alright, let's keep going. Hello, humans. Alright, so now we're into the 3 mana slot. Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. That might be worth it. It's a mana ramp. It's a human. And it even has a formidable ability that could come in handy. Shaman of Forgotten Ways. In a similar vein, Somberwald Sage taps for 3 mana of any one color, and you can use it to only cast creature spells. It's a human. So like you could tap this to cast the 3 pips for Kogla and make it easier for you to cast Kogla and still have mana open to make it indestructible. I think that's a good one to give a whirl. All right. Alright, so now we're into the 4 mana humans. Killer Dackle, welcome to the stream. Alright, so you were recommending Drum Hunter? Did I just overlook something? Drum Hunter. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 5 or greater, you may draw a card. Okay. Alright, I can dig that. Plus he kind of looks tribal, like he could be on Skull Island, right? Hanging out with Kogla. Definitely want Surak the Hunt Caller. Given Kogla haste is going to be awesome. See, it comes into the battlefield, it fights something, it attacks and kills an artifact or enchantment. I've got that in my Grithoma deck. It does good work. Yep, we got Bogbonder. It's right here. I did a search first for humans that had entered the battlefield triggers. So that's where we got like Eternal Witness, we got the Bogbonder. So that's yeah, we got that covered. That seems Bogbonder seems amazing in this deck. So I don't have any 5-drops currently. Jol Rael is a card that I used to play in multiplayer Magic many years ago before I even knew about EDH. Basically, as a way to punish sweepers, players that play sweepers, since if somebody plays like, you know, uncounterable Wrath of God type effect, then we can basically nuke all of their lands. Plus, it's a human. I mean, it's pretty mean, but I think, I mean, playing a 6-mana commander, we definitely don't want it dying too much. So maybe dissuading our opponent with some politics from board sweepers might be worth it. So I'm gonna, and again, it's a human, so we could conceivably bounce this back to our hand to make Kogla indestructible. I mean, we could even do that in response, right? We could tap it, discard 2 cards, make the player who played the Wrath make all of their lands into creatures, and then bounce this back to our hand to make Kogla indestructible. And then Kamal can kind of do a similar thing with its activated ability, turning lands into creatures. But really, the overrun effect is what we're probably going to want the most of. So, Kamal, Fist of Krosa. All right. Okay, so I think we've gone through the humans. Hopefully, I haven't missed one. Let's take a look at Monvuli Beast Tracker. Did I actually put that into the list? I don't think I've put that into the list. Okay, so Monvuli Beast Tracker. So let's look for a creature. And we're gonna look for, I think it was Death Touch was the first one for our green deck. So let's see what death touch creatures would we want to actually like search up. I mean, Ronus the Indomitable seems like something worth getting. I mean, it is a 3 mana, so that's kind of a tough thing, but I mean, we can give Kogla +2/+0 and trample until the end of turn. Seems like something we might want to search up. Dominable. Questing Beast. Yep. Questing Beast. And Acidic Slime. Obviously, that's a very good one. So we're basically tutoring up a way to destroy an artifact, enchantment, or land. Alright, Oron Frostfang doesn't have Death Touch, so we wouldn't necessarily be able to search that up, but I think it's definitely worth having in the deck. And Worm Coil Engine and Hornet Queen both seem like solid inclusions. Alright, so next on the list was Hexproof. So let's see if there's any Hexproof creatures other than the Bog Bonder that we could potentially want to search up. Well, I could see maybe Thrun the Last Troll and Carnage Tyrant. What do y'all think of that? Carnage Tyrant. Any other hexproofers worth getting? I mean, Archetype of Endurance, that's 8 mana. That's kind of pricey. Alright, so I'm going to move on to Reach. I can't imagine that we're going to be tutoring for something with Reach and putting it on top of our deck, but maybe something will surprise us. Maybe a Stone Coil Serpent. Is that worth playing? Reach, Trample, Protection from Multicolor. I could see that maybe. Stone Coil Serpent. Killer Dackle likes the Stone Coil, and Jazzy Doggo likes Thrun. Alright. Let's see. There's a lot of spiders and such here. Oh snap, Gem Razor. Yeah, so that, I mean, basically that would be sweet. If we already have our questing beast, then we can tutor up the Gem Razor, right? Gem Razor. Gem Razor has been super sweet in on Arena. I mean, all the mutate stuff seems to be sweet. I really can't wait to get a hold of that stuff. Cavalier of Thorns. I mean, we could potentially go get that if we need to try to ramp from 5 to 6. Plus, it's just good. It's just a good card. Alright, World Breaker. Heck yeah. World Breaker's super good. I played the heck out of that when it was in Standard, so... Oh snap, Multani Yavamaya's Avatar. Multani Yavamaya's Avatar. And Uvenwald Hydra. Uvenwald Hydra. Look at that, we haven't even gotten a World Breaker yet, and we found some more Reachers that are solid. Whiptongue Hydra. Destroy all creatures with flying. Alright, we're getting kind of tight at 6 mana. I think I'm gonna actually I think I like this better than Carnage Tyrant. Being able to clear the skies is probably going to be pretty nice for our mono green deck. Whiptongue Hydra. Alright, yep, there's your World Breaker. Put that with the Hornet Queen. You know what? I just had an idea. So even though we have a fair number of humans, there might be some other things that we would want to bounce back to our hand with Kogla. What if we added Roon Stalactite? Are y'all familiar with that card? Roon. So for 2 mana, we could give basically give Changeling to any of our creatures, and then we could bounce them with Kogla. What do you think? Is that too janky, or is it super sweet tech? All right, Trample. We're gonna have tons of stuff to find with Trample. Jazzy Doggo says, seems a little underwhelming. Okay. Alright. Alright. I'm not married to it, so I can accept the rebuke. Alright. Is anything that we want to tutor up for Trample that has Trample? Voracious Hydra. We might want to get our fight on. I kind of feel like we're probably going to want like fighting being a sub-theme of this deck, so... Voracious Hydra. I mean, we're playing mono green, so we're going to want ways of interacting with our creatures, with other people's creatures. Man, I love Ramonut Hydra so much, but it's just not worth it. Like, if this was a 4-drop 4/4, would it have really been overpowered? Man. If only. Alright, Jazzy Dago says, I like the 5-drop common from the new Theros that gives all your dudes Trample. All right. Well, let's keep an eye out for that. All right, so we're in the 5-drop stuff now. Loyal Guardian is actually a really good card. I'm going to go ahead and put in here Cauldron of Souls, because I think it's good for a creature-centric deck, to be able to bring all your creatures back from a board wipe. And Loyal Guardian will basically, if you control your commander, let you kind of knock off all of those persist, all the -1/-1 counters, so that you can persist again. Alright, enchantment creature. Nylea's Forerunner, trample. Other creatures you control have trample. Okay. It's a 5/3. Do you think it's really worth it? Do you think it's good? Killer Dackle has recommended Conjurer's Closet. Heck yeah. We'll blink our commander, bring him back, he'll fight something else, and he'll be basically untapped to block. Though it's kind of funny to imagine summoning up Kogla, a giant ape, in your closet. Nylea's Forerunner. I'm going to bookmark that for later. I'm not entirely sold on that. A 5/3 seems a little underwhelming. Like, we could just run, and we probably should run Rancor. Like, that'll go right on Kogla and give him trample. Yeah. Alright. Let's go ahead and put him in there. He may get cut later, but we'll add him in here for now. Nylea's Forerunner. Now, hang on a second. Now, here is, for 1 mana more, Aggressive Mammoth, which gives all of our creatures trample, and it's an 8/8. What do you think? I think I'm gonna replace. I'm gonna cut that for Aggressive Mammoth. How about that? I mean, plus it's a frickin' 8/8. And what a nice 1/2 punch, right? If you played Oron Frostfang and then Aggressive Mammoth, so like then you attack and all your creatures have Death Touch and Trample. I mean, I can see where the other one only having 1 green mana and its mana cost is nice for multicolor decks, but we are mono green, so I think that's probably worth it, worth the slot more so. Alright, we're pretty tight on the 6 mana stuff at this point, so You know, I was today years old when I realized Nyx Bloom Ancient has trample. Like, who even worries about this having trample? This card is ridiculous. Thorn Mammoth. He likes to fight too. I'm gonna put him in here just for fighting. He's in the Kogla Fight Club. Enrays Forerunners. I mean, it's a big pig. Alright, sure, let's do it. There is Titaneth Rex. We could tutor it up and then cycle it away to give Kogla a trample counter. Let's do it. Titaneth Rex. Alright. So we have finished up with tutoring things there. Alright, so alright, so I wanted to search for some ways to oh wait, Jazzy Doggo has a question. I'm building a Haktos deck where he's the only creature in it. What cool techie card that would work with that idea? I think that's an interesting idea. I actually have a Haktos deck that I built for Star City Games. So if you wanted to go check out some of my articles there, you can maybe get some ideas from there. But I would hesitate making him your Voltron commander, because at that point, like, you're going to be whatever creature control that they may have available, they're going to try to hit it with it. I mean, just, I guess, depending on what you roll with it. Anthems and crawl space effects. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sort of in giant green ape mode right now, so switching gears into Haktos is kind of blowing my ancient brain a little bit. So why don't you hit me up with it? Take a look at my article on Star City Games, and then maybe hit me up on Twitter with that question, and I can do some more thinking about it. I think Haktos is very powerful. The deck that I wrote up for it, I think, was pretty good. Alright, so anyway, I got a search here for looking for a green commander and looking for the words damage to target creature. Because some of the there's some cards that aren't strictly fight cards that are just sort of target creature deals damage that we'd want to include in addition to fight cards. So Anyway, that's what I did a search for here. Maze of Ith, I think, is worth doing, right? Like, if we were attacking with Kogla and we have an opponent that like flashes out something with Death Touch or something, and we don't want it to die, we could untap it and prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to it and dealt by it this turn. So that way we could still get the trigger from him attacking without him actually having to get into combat or take damage from combat. The one thing that's kind of techie is Maze of Ith doesn't actually remove the creature from combat. It just prevents all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by that creature this turn. So, and another thing that's interesting is you can activate Maze of Ith's ability, targeting an attacking creature you control during the combat step, or at the end of combat step, it'll be untapped and the damage it had already dealt won't be undone. So, like, it's a way to kind of give Kogla vigilance in a way. But what's an interesting thing here is that if you have a questing beast, so combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. So if you have a questing beast out, this is actually a way to sort of make your creature kind of indestructible to combat damage if you have a questing beast. So, yeah. Anyway, so for the purpose of the mana curve, I usually put something like Maze of Ith is basically counting as a 0 cost spell. Obviously, you don't want to count that as one of your mana producing lands. Alright, so let's get back to what we were looking for here. So here's Aggressive Instinct. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. I think there's some that are a little bit better than this one. If we need some more, maybe I'll come back to that one. Here, let me bookmark that one. Alright, so Nature's Way. Target creature you control gains vigilance and trample, and it deals damage to its power to target creature you don't control. So, I mean, that basically covers all your bases. Very nice. Nature's Way. There's also Rabid Bite, which is basically the same as Aggressive Instinct. Alright, Ram Through is an insanely good card, so that definitely is going in here. I mean, if we can actually give Kogla Trample, oof, it's going to be sweet. Speaking of, actually, before I forget, let's put a Black Blade Reforged in here, because the only thing an ape loves better than a human to pick up is a giant sword. Alright, Band Together is another instant fight spell. Or not fight, but sort of a instant speed, deals damage. This is kind of nice too, because it really works nicely with Death Touch too. So even if you have a small creature with Death Touch, you can kill something else with it. So I'm going to Make some room for band together. So Vivian Arcbow Ranger has a sort of a fight function too. I'm not hugely sold on planeswalkers in Commander because people tend to aggressively go after them. But I do kind of like the abilities there, but I think I'm going to pass for now. Lord, there was a song my son put on my phone. It is very inappropriate. Alright. Alright. We'll go with the Beastie Boys. Alright. I think we've already... Apex Altasaur fits sort of the fight theme, but it's 9 mana. We've already got a pretty high mana curve, so I think I'm going to pass on that one. Alright, so now I'm going to search for cards that have actual fight in the mechanic itself. So Arena, another land that doesn't tap for mana. So we'll add that there. We've got Ovenwall Tracker already. So we got Pounce, that's another instant speed fight spell. Okay, well, I think we've got the good fighting stuff thrown in there already. Alright, so now that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves, I wanted to search up stuff for destroy, so that we make sure we have plenty of utility, some interaction with our opponents. So we want to be able to destroy stuff. Does anyone have any favorite green destroy effects? Alright, question. Do you think Return to Nature is worth playing in Commander? Does the exile target card from a graveyard kind of give it an extra little bit of goodness? Dag78, welcome to the stream. I hope I didn't miss like an earlier, if you commented earlier, but Thanks, I'm glad you're enjoying the process. Desert Twister. I have a couple copies of the original Arabian Nights Desert Twister. It is very cool. What do you think? What do you think? Return to Nature, worth it? Give me the verdict, chat. What do you think? Would prefer Wilt. All right, what does Wilt do? Destroy target artifact or enchantment, and it has cycling. Yeah, but it can't hit a card in a graveyard. All right. So I'm guessing that y'all aren't thrilled with my suggestions. So that's fine. We've got other options. There's Beast Within. That seems like a definite choice here to add in. Croson Grip. Got to get a grip. Reclamation Sage. All right, looks like Jazzy Doggo has a vote for the Return to Nature. All right, I'm taking it. I'm taking it and I'm running with it. Oblivion Stone. What do you think when our commander has potential indestructibility, being able to blow everything else up? It's a way to get rid of a whole bunch of creatures. In fact, I think probably even Nevinral's Disc, we could stick that in here too. What about Boom Pile? What about the Boom Pile? Boom. Well, Force of Vigor, for sure. Alright, here's a writer's pro tip. Never try to actually spell Nevinral's Disc. Just copy, paste it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, our commander could potentially be indestructible, so I think having Oblivion Stone and Nevinral's Disc is a nice way to sort of be able to give some Wrath of God sort of effects in our mono green deck. Like sometimes in Commander, battlefields just get way out of hand. Isuri's Predation. I've had people mention that before. Isuri's Predation. Wow. That is a whopping 8 mana. What do you think, chat? What do you think of Jazzy's suggestion of Isuri's Predation? Sorcery. For 8 mana, for each creature your opponent controls, put a 4/4 green beast creature token onto the battlefield, and each of those beasts fights a different one of those creatures. Alright, Deg78 is in. Alright, why not? I mean, it's another fight, right? Another fight card. And it's kind of a green wrath, right? For at least small creatures. Okay. I am in. I have been sold. Alright, where were we? Oh, we're still in the destroy zone. Spine of Isha is kind of interesting. Especially since we have ways to sort of, for blowing up the world, it'll come back to our hand. But that is very pricey. Jazzy Doggo, dishes are done! Way to go! High five! Yeah! You may now reward yourself for a job well done. Alright, alright, I am happy with my removal suite here. So we've got fight stuff, we've got some utility, we've got ramp. So I think at this point in my deck building, typically I will go over to EDH Rec and take a look and see what the consensus is for cards, see if I might have missed something. So let's go on over to EDH Rec and let's see what the 16 other decks that are in the database, what they have come up with. Survivor's Bond. Choose one or both. Return target human from your graveyard to your hand and return target non-human from your graveyard to your hand. What do you think of Survivor's Bond? I mean, we got a lot of creatures. It's probably going to be 2 for 1 most of the time. I would just hate to draw that relatively early and just have it rot away in my hand. I feel like a better call would be something like Seasons Past or something later in the game where you want to maybe kind of reload. Alright, Zendikar Resurgent. That was something that I forgot to search for, was card draw in this deck. And Zendikar Resurgent obviously is going to be good in any deck that has creatures, but I think it's going to be particularly good here because we could use Kogla's ability to basically kind of turn into a draw engine. So, I mean, it's not like you have to really argue for Zendikar Resurgent, but I think it's actually going to be even better in this deck. Oh, looks like some other people picked Ixali's Diviner as well. Oh, the Guardian Project. Speaking of drawing cards. The fact that I have Oblivion Stone and Nevinral's Disc, I think I might want to lean towards like sorcery speed card drawn as opposed to permanent base, such as Rishkar's Expertise. We're starting to get a little bit tight here at the 6 mana spot. I am going to replace Wormcoil Engine with Rishkar's Expertise. Nylea Keen-Eyed. It's kind of a mana ramp spell, right? You play that on turn 4, and then on turn 5 you could cast Kogla. It's indestructible, so it plays nicely with Nevinral's Disc and Oblivion Stone. That activate ability, though, is just so blah. So Seedborn Muse. That'd let us untap, so we have mana to bounce human back to our hand. That seems worth it. I mean, Seedborn Muse is crazy already. Oh, Heroic Intervention. That's a insanely good commander card. Put that in there. Alright, speaking of some card draw, Harmonize. It's a good one. Now, Vigor does great work in my Grathoma deck. I mean, it would definitely do some nice work with the fighting of Kogla, but I think we've got a fair crop of some potent 6-drops already. And I'm not sure I would replace any of these with Vigor. Do you see any of these that you would want to replace with Vigor? Here's a little extra mana ramp, Sky Shroud Claim. it puts forest into play and it doesn't come into play tapped. How are we on our mana curve? So Thrun is better, I think, if we're playing a lot of equipment, which I don't think we're going to end up playing a whole lot of equipment. So I think I might replace Thrun with the Sky Shroud Claim for a little bit more mana ramp. Especially considering that we've got a lot of high cost stuff in our deck. So, and Kogla is probably going to die a couple times, so that commander tax could kind of add up. Isn't there basically an instant speed Souls Mastery these days? I can't remember the name of it. Return of the Wild Speaker. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Get wild. I mean, who's a better wild speaker than a giant legendary ape? Bear Umbra, that's an interesting thought. Totem Armor. I've got a pretty thick stack of 4-drops. So Jazzy Doggo points out that Return of the Wild Speaker doesn't really work with our humans. But I mean, we still have a fair number of non-humans. Yeah, I think it's worth it. I think it's going to draw us a decent amount of cards usually. Oh yes, we definitely would want Castle Garenbrig. I guess Nykthos as well. Nykthos. Shrine to Nyx. Alright, I'm going to go back and search for draw cards for green. Draw cards. See what we can find. I mean, we got Skull Clamp. Hunter's Insight. I mean, that kind of relies on combat damage. Greater Good is an old favorite, but it's a enchantment that we might end up blowing stuff up. Hedron Archive. Hunter's Prowess. Until the end of the turn, target creature gets +3/+3 in trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. There's Garruk Primal Hunter. Oh, the Great Henge. Yeah, we gotta have the Great Henge. Gotta have the Great Henge. Alright, the nice thing about Garruk Primal Hunter, actually, now that I think about it, is it survives a Nevinral's Disc. Nevinral's Disc does not destroy planeswalkers. Alright, so we have quite a few 5-drops, so I'm going to replace Jor-El, Empress of Beasts, with Garruk Primal Hunter. Good call, good call. Okay. Alright, so... Alright, let's start, I think we got a pretty solid pile of cards here, so let's finish out the list with some lands, and then we're going to load it into a deck database and check our counts and make sure, see if we have to do any cuts. So I like to go to Mana Base Crafter for my mana base. They have some pretty good stuff, and I like the way it's organized. I don't know if they have Kogla in here yet, so I'll just put in Questing Beast for mono green. So I like to have some deserts in here to fuel an extra activation off of scavenger ground. And when I'm doing lands in my deck list, I like to put the colorless lands up near the top, and then the lands that actually tap for mana. Typically, like I've got Nykthos, I would include that as a colored source of mana because you will typically be able to get colored mana out of it. So I like to keep the colorless sources. I like to try not to go too overboard on those, especially in a deck like this one that has heavy green mana requirements from Kogla. So anyway, that's how I'm going to be organizing these lands as we drop them in here. So anyway, going back to Cycling Land, Desert of the Indomitable. And I'm actually probably going to run 40 lands in this deck, mainly because I imagine Kogla is going to draw a lot of removal from people. And it already starts at 6 mana. Plus, a lot of times you're going to want to hold up mana to protect it, so I just feel like we're going to want to be able to hit our land drops constantly. And any extra lands we get are typically going to be used. So I'm going to have a pretty high number of lands in my deck. And I recommend a lot of lands in your decks too. I think I'm going to put Endless Sands in here. It's another desert. And it's also a nice way to... like you can exile Kogla in case someone is gonna like steal it or enchant it with something that would make it kind of stuck out on the battlefield, not able to do something like a Darksteel mutation. So this way you can exile it, but instead of putting it in exile, you put it into the command zone. So that way you're not going to burn off the Endless Sands to bring it back, and you can just recast it again from the command zone. Though obviously you could also tuck it away with Endless Sands and then sacrifice it to bring it back, but that's a little risky because if you choose to exile it and then Endless Sands goes away, you've kind of lost your commander. Alright. So Blighted Woodland is a decent mana ramp spell. So I'm going to put that in here. It's kind of colorless early, but later on it kind of turns into colors. So I'm going to kind of have it up here in the colorless area. I think Arcane Lighthouse would be good to have in here too, so that we could fight creatures that our opponents control that have hexproof. I mean, we do have the Shadow Spear, but that doesn't remove Shroud. Arcane Lighthouse will remove Shroud, so that's nice. So Command Beacon, Killer Dackle suggested. If I had ways to be bringing lands back from my graveyard, I might be tempted to do that, but I feel like green has enough mana ramp that I think we can just sort of power through a fair amount of commander attacks if we just have plenty of card draw and mana ramp. That's kind of my feeling on that. I could be wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at. Let's see. So Mikakoro, Center of the Sea, is some nice card draw. But we are playing green and we have a fair amount of card draw anyway, so that may not be necessary. It's kind of crazy how many good utility lands are around these days. Alright, so Killer Dackle recommended Command Beacon with Eternal Witness. That's an interesting thought. Alright, you've sold me. Command Beacon. Alright, Myriad Landscape. It's another good mana ramp spell. I'm a big fan of Mirror Pool. So Mirror Pool's nice because we could copy like some of those spells that deal damage to other creatures. And also I really like Mirror Pool for a way to kind of sidestep creature removal. So if somebody is hitting Kogla with Swords to Plowshares, you could copy Kogla, legend rule it, so then it just goes and put it in your command zone, and now you've got another copy of Kogla who fights something when he comes into the battlefield. Just Mirror Pool is such a great card. Alright, Okina, Temple of the Grandfathers, and Orn Reef, the Vast Wood both seem like good inclusions in our mono green deck. and they tap for green mana. All right. Thespian Stage makes a pretty good forest impression for a while until you want to copy something else. Alright, and probably on the colorless we can wind things down with Winding Canyons and Yavimai Hollow. Regenerating our commander if he fights would be pretty sweet. Alright, let's see if there's anything else in here that looks interesting. Mosswort Bridge for a little card draw sort of thing. I think that's a good one. I mean, Kogla is going to satisfy 7 of the 10 by itself, so that's nice. Alright, probably want a way to interact with some lands on our opponents. I've already got kind of my limit, I feel like, on my colorless sources, but I think Dust Bowl is probably worth squeezing in there. I mean, we do have like Acidic Slime that we can kill lands with too if we need to. Treetop Village. It's a nice way to punish some of these Super Friends decks that like to keep sweeping the board and ticking up their planeswalkers. We've got Castle Garenbrig. It's a good one. So if you have if you own a Gaia's Cradle, we'll maybe put that in there, but I'm not gonna put it in my list just because that's it's a very pricey card these days. I'm gonna put a couple other cyclers in here. That way, if we do happen to get just overloaded with lands, we can kind of cycle them away to draw a little deeper. I was actually tempted to put an Urborg in here so that our 2 lands that don't tap for mana could tap for mana. That would basically be another colorless source of mana in our deck. And I mean, if somebody plays a Cabal Coffers, we could do something crazy with our Thespian Stage, but that's probably a little too cute. We've already got a pretty stacked number of colorless lands here. Alright. So let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 40 minus 20 would leave us with 20 forests. Alright, so we got our initial list here. Let's load this into... So I usually use Archidect, but someone suggested Moxfield to me. So I'm going to give it a whirl for this stream and see how it works. So stream, Kogla. Commander. Who is your commander? It is Kogla, the Titan Ape. We'll make it public and paste in list. And let's see what happens. Did I do something wrong? Did I break something? Alright, let's try that again. Kogla. Commander. Kogla. Public. Paste in list. Is the spaces in here freaking this thing out? If has anybody used this before? Do you know if I'm supposed to take out all these spaces in the list? Does that freak out the program? Sorry, I use the spaces to sort of better organize stuff visually. Alright, let's cross fingers and see what happens. Create. And it broke. Alright. Well, not sure what's going on with Moxfield, but I guess I will go back to Architect. New deck. Stream. Kogla. Commander. Let's make it not private. Create. We'll add some cards. Save some changes. Yeah, that's Architect has always been pretty. I've been pretty happy with that. All right, so I think Architect doesn't like the cards that have different names in it, so that would explain Flaxen Intruder and Duskwatch Recruiter. Summoner's Closet, I guess I might have misspelled that, maybe. Summoner's Closet. Hello? Conjurer's Closet. Okay. Whoops. Conjurer's Closet. Alright. Conjurer's Closet. And Ixali's Diviner. Ixali. So I'm missing an L. Okay. So fix those two, and then I'm going to need to manually add Flaxen Intruder, welcome home. And Duskwatch Recruiter. We'll add that one. Alright, so Flaxen, we'll remove this from the top of the list here. And Duskwatch should be down here. There we go. Alright, let's try to save the changes now. Let's see what happens. All cards have been found! Alright. So let's set our commander, Kogla. Let's take a look at our... So we've got 42 lands, but of course 2 of those aren't really lands, so that brings us down to 40. So it's showing that we're 20 off. We got 20 more cards than we need. So that means we got some cutting to do. Alright, I'm going to sort this out by converted mana cost, because I'm a little obsessive about that. Alright, so let's start at the top of the curve. When I'm doing cuts on my commander decks, I kind of like to start up to near the top of the curve and sort of work my way down. But that reminds me, let's take a look at the stats and see what our mana curve kind of looks like. So the curve actually looks pretty good. I like to kind of have my my biggest pile start at 2 and then kind of work its way down to 3 and 4 and 5. So the mana curve looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to need to start cutting 20 cards out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut Titanith Rex. I think it's cute, but we got 20 cards to go. So bye-bye. I think Enray's Forerunners is nice, but I don't think we go wide enough to really make that worth it. And I kind of want to just keep the Azuri's Predation at 8 mana, since it's sort of a fight effect. So I think I'm going to cut the pig. Bye-bye. Alright, at 7 mana, I think the weak link here is probably Thorn Mammoth. I like Worldbreaker, and I like Zendikar Resurgent is a bomb card. I think Hornet Queen is nice for sort of clogging up the skies if you're facing someone that has a lot of Air Force. So I think Thorn Mammoth. I mean, he doesn't even stand up in size to the ape. So let's give Thorn Mammoth the boot. So I think Aggressive Mammoth kind of fills the need for Kamal in our deck. So I think he can go Whip-Tongue Hydra. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut that as well. I mean, we've got reach stuff and fight things, so I think we got Hornet Queen, so I feel like we not necessarily need to sweep the skies. So think these 6 are solid. We still do have the aggressive mammoth. We still have the aggressive mammoth. Alright, so 5 mana. I think probably Loyal Guardian is sort of the weak link here. I mean, y'all did point out that we've got a lot of humans in this deck, so this could lead to some potential awkwardness, but I still just really like the card draw attached to that at instant speed. So I think I'm going to try to make that work. Do you think Conjurer's Closet is too cute? I mean, we have 8 5-drops. I mean, it can be a form of some card advantage by blinking stuff like Acidic Slime and things, in addition to our commander. Alright, I'll try to keep it in there. Alright, so now we got 4 mana. I mean, we have some creatures here that kind of give us mana. Drum Hunter gives us some potential slow card draw. So I'm kind of tempted to cut either Migration's Path or Sky Shroud Claim. Migration Path is nice because it cycles, but like, how often are we really going to cycle that away? I mean, honestly, I think we're going to want all the mana we can get our hands on. So I think Sky Shroud Claim is just better because it pays us back 2 of the 4 mana we spend, like right away. So I think I'm going to cut Migration Path. Might have to cut Drum Hunter. Just, I mean, we got a lot of cards to cut. We have some cheaper fight spells than Band Together. That's 3 mana. So I think that might be worth cutting. Alright, I'm going to cut that one. I think I'm going to cut Somberwald Sage too. Like, Shaman of the Forgotten Ways and Somberwald Sage kind of serve a similar function, but the Shaman has some additional game-winning ability there. So I'm going to cut that. Alright, so we're down to 11 cards over as we go down to 2 mana. Alright, I think I'm going to cut Return to Nature. I think Obsessive Skinner is probably not worth it. I think I'm going to cut Duskwatch Recruiter. I mean, his activated ability is kind of mana intensive, and if we're going to be holding up mana to try to protect our commander, plus we have plenty of creatures, but I could see whiffing occasionally, and that's going to hurt. So I think I'm actually going to cut the Duskwatch Recruiter as well. Alright, so we are at 8 overage. Alright, let's look at the ones. I mean, Joraga can power us out early with Kogla, and then untapped it basically gives us enough mana to activate it, though it's not a human, so it's not going to be able to be bounced back. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and save this. We got 8 more to cut, chat. 8 more. Alright, let's go back up to the top of the mana curve again. Alright, I am going to go ahead and cut Return of the Wild Speaker because of because of all the humans we got running around. I could see that rotting in my hand if they keep Kogla off the battlefield, and I've got a bunch of humans sitting around. I mean, we still got 8 cards to cut, so got to make some hard decisions. I mean, the rest of the 5s I really like. Conjurer's Closet, I think it will give us sort of some virtual card advantage there by blinking some of the enter the battlefield stuff. Alright, I think I'm gonna cut Drum Hunter. I mean, I like that suggestion, and it's got some cool stuff going on, but I think like, until we actually have something that has a power 5 or greater, it's not really going to be worth the mana investment. Alright. Alright, at 3, I think I'm going to cut Borderland Ranger. So that leaves us at 5. 5 cards to cut. Alright, I mean, we got Rampant Growth, we got Secure Tribe Elder, and we've got Nature's Lore all at 2. I think one of them can go. I think I'm going to boot Rampant Growth, since Nature's Lore puts the forest onto the battlefield and basically pays you back with mana right away, so let's go ahead and boot the Rampant Growth. Alright, that leaves us with 4 cards. 4 cards. As much as I hate to say it, I'm wondering if Uvenwald Hydra needs to get the boot. I mean, we've got a lot of cool lands, but I don't know if any one particular land is super critical, other than like Castle Garenbrig. What do you think, chat? For our six mana stuff, do we want to cut any of that? We've got Aggressive Mammoth, we've got Multani, Yavimai's Avatar, we got Rishkar's Expertise, and we got Uvenwald Hydra. Any thoughts? I know, right? I mean, Multani is just such a huge threat. And it'll keep coming back. Alright, let's see if I can find something else. Alright, so I think I'm going to actually go to 39 mana producing lands. Just to kind of keep us sane here. The cuts are too hard. I can't handle it. The Hydra or the Mammoth? I mean, Goreclaw gives all of our creatures trample too, right? I mean, not all of our creatures, but the big creatures. So, I guess let's cut the Mammoth. Alright, Killer Dackle is saying not sure about the Muse. I mean, the Muse is powerful, obviously, but we don't necessarily have a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing on our opponent's turns, right? Let's see how many instants we have. So we got 6 instants. But really, the main thing was keeping mana up for Kogla. But we may not have enough instants to really push it that way. So I think that is a bold suggestion that makes sense. All right, bye bye, Seedborn Muse. Hit the showers. All right, we have one final card to cut. Do y'all have any thoughts? One final cut. And you better not say the Great Hinge. You know what? It occurs to me I might have miscounted on the lands. So right now we're showing 42 lands. So Arena I wouldn't count as a land, so that takes us to 41. Maze of Ith, that doesn't count, so that's 40. Oh, they got Stone Coral Serpent in here. What the heck? So yeah, it's supposed to be a creature. Why is this in the stack? Okay, so that would bring us down to 39. I don't know why that's in the wrong spot. It's kind of weird. Well, speaking of, do we want to keep Stone Coil Serpent? Alright, I'm going to make a bold move and just get rid of Stone Coil Serpent since it's hiding in the lands and it's making this look untidy. And we need one more card to cut, so boom, gone. Maybe that's why maybe that's why the serpent was hiding in the lands, right? Because it kind of knew it was on the chopping block. Alright, so our mana curve is a little bit clunkier, but I think we trimmed some of the higher stuff pretty good. So we've got most of our action at 2, 3, and 4, which is kind of where I like to see our curve in Commander. And I think we have arrived at our destination. So there we have it. We got Kogla the Titan Ape, and I think it's a pretty sweet list. Thank you guys for coming out and helping out. And thanks to the lurkers, I hope you were entertained and got some good ideas for maybe your own Kogla deck. So anyway, I am going to wrap up the stream. I am Benny Smith, and this stream is The Complete Commander. And if you didn't get a chance to watch it here, I'm going to have it uploaded on my YouTube channel, which is also The Complete Commander. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, my handle there is @BlairWitchGreen. So follow me there, and I talk about Commander all the time. I get in conversations about Commander constantly. I love to talk about Commander. And also, if you don't already, make sure to check me out on StarCityGames.com. I write about Commander every week, and my new home is on Saturdays. Star City Games is now producing content 7 days a week, and on the weekends it's Commander. You can read me on Saturdays, and Sheldon Menery writes on Sundays. And if you can afford it and subscribe to Star City Games Premium, that's awesome. It helps to pay me and other content creators you might like. But if you can't afford it, that's cool too. And all of our content is available for free a week after it runs. So even if you're not a subscriber, you can still come check out my content. And the nice thing about Commander is that it's basically timeless content. So even if you read it a week later, it's not like you're missing out on anything. So anyway, I will wrap things up. Y'all have a good evening. Stay safe and have fun. And I'll catch you next Monday.